Far beyond the reach of sunlight, drifting through the emptiness between stars, there's a machine that left Earth nearly half a century ago. Most people think of it as a relic, a vintage spacecraft quietly collecting dust particles and radiation readings as it floats into the cosmic abyss. But something happened out there, something that nobody saw coming. We're talking about Voyager 2. Voyager 2 detected movement, not the random drift of space debris or the predictable paths of distant rocks. This was different. It was deliberate and intentional. And when the data finally reached scientists back on Earth, they realized that this ancient probe might have just stumbled onto something we've been searching for our entire existence, or maybe something that's been searching for us. Let's back up and talk about what Voyager 2 actually is. Launched in 1977, this spacecraft is one of humanity's most ambitious projects. It visited Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, sending back images that completely changed how we understood these distant worlds. But the grand tour of the planets was never meant to be the end of its journey. After Neptune, Voyager 2 just kept going, flying deeper and deeper into space. In 2018, Voyager 2 crossed the heliopause. That's the boundary where the influence of our sun finally gives out and interstellar space begins. Think of it like the edge of a bubble. Inside that bubble, we've got the solar wind, charged particles constantly streaming out from the sun. Outside that bubble, you've got the interstellar medium, the space between star systems filled with gas and dust and cosmic radiation from other parts of the galaxy. So once Voyager 2 crossed that line, it became the second human-made object to enter true interstellar space. Voyager 1 got there first, a few years earlier. And out there, both probes are supposed to be doing the same thing, just measuring the environment. Particle density, magnetic fields, cosmic rays, basic science stuff. Pretty routine. Except it wasn't routine, not anymore. The first sign that something was off came from the plasma wave instrument. This is a sensor that detects fluctuations in the density of charged particles around the spacecraft. Under normal circumstances, you'd expect to see small variations, little bumps in the data as Voyager drifts through pockets of slightly denser or less dense plasma. Nothing dramatic, just background noise. But what NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory picked up was anything but background noise. The plasma wave data showed a spike, a sudden increase that lasted only a few seconds. At first, engineers thought it might be interference, maybe a cosmic ray hit, or just a glitch in the aging electronics. Voyager 2 is almost 50 years old at this point, so occasional hiccups aren't exactly shocking. But then it happened again, and this time, the signal was stronger. And there was something else about it that made people stop and take a closer look. The signal had a rhythm. It wasn't random static. It was pulsing in a pattern, like someone tapping out a beat. So they dug deeper into the data, and what they found sent a chill through the entire team. About 500,000 kilometers away from Voyager 2, there was an object, and this object was moving fast, way too fast for anything that should be drifting around in interstellar space. And here's the really strange part. It wasn't just moving in a random direction. It was tracking Voyager's path. Let me put that in perspective for you. Voyager 2 is moving at about 15 kilometers per second relative to the sun. That's ridiculously fast by human standards. But in the vastness of space, it's still just a tiny speck crawling through an infinite ocean. For something else out there to not only detect Voyager, but to adjust its own trajectory to follow it, that's not something you'd expect from a rock or a chunk of ice. That's intentional movement. The object was matching Voyager's velocity, staying at a relatively constant distance, like a predator stalking its prey, but not getting too close. Just observing, waiting. And that's when the scientists at JPL started asking the uncomfortable questions. What is this thing? Why is it following us? And more importantly, how long has it been out there? Now, here's where things get even weirder. Remember, Voyager 2 is an old spacecraft. It's got limited power, limited communication bandwidth, and it's running on technology from the 1970s. But embedded in the telemetry data it was sending back to Earth, scientists found something that shouldn't have been there. A radio frequency burst that didn't match anything in Voyager's programming. It was piggybacking on the regular signal, hitching a ride on Voyager's transmission back to Earth. And when they decrypted it, they found a series of binary strings, ones and zeros, the most basic language of computers. But these weren't random. When they plotted them visually, they formed patterns. Geometric shapes, spirals, intersecting lines, almost like symbols. Some compared them to crop circles, those mysterious patterns that show up in fields and nobody can quite explain. Others pointed out similarities to ancient symbols found in early human history, the kind of recursive patterns you see in prehistoric cave art or carved into stone monuments. But this wasn't coming from Earth. This was coming from interstellar space. A team of AI linguists and astrophysicists ran the data through analysis algorithms, trying to figure out if there was any meaning hidden in the structure. And what they found was disturbing. The pattern matched the kind of signal you'd expect from an intentional transmission. Not from Voyager itself, but from something that had either intercepted Voyager's signal or embedded its own message into the data stream. Think about that for a second. Something out there, far beyond the reach of our sun, had the capability to hijack, or at least interact with a signal from a human spacecraft. That's not just advanced technology. That's awareness, intelligence, intent. The scientific community didn't know how to react. Some saw this as the evidence we've been waiting for, proof that we're not alone. Others were far less optimistic. If there's something out there capable of tracking our spacecraft and manipulating our signals, then maybe we should be worried. Maybe this isn't a friendly hello. Maybe it's surveillance. Or worse. This wasn't the first time something like this happened. When scientists started digging through archived data from Voyager 1, they found something that had been dismissed years ago as just interference. A brief anomaly in the telemetry, a distortion that didn't make sense at the time, but wasn't considered important enough to investigate. Now, looking at it with fresh eyes and modern decoding tools, they realized that Voyager 1 had experienced almost the exact same thing. Same type of signal distortion, same kind of pattern embedded in the data. And it happened in roughly the same region of interstellar space, just decades apart. So whatever this thing is, it didn't just randomly show up near Voyager 2. It was already out there when Voyager 1 passed through. It encountered both probes, which means it's been in our cosmic neighborhood for a long time, watching, waiting. And that raises an even more unsettling question. How many other things are out there that we just haven't noticed yet? Scientists tried to model the object's trajectory using standard physics. Comets and asteroids follow predictable paths based on gravity. But this thing didn't fit any of the models. Its path bent in ways that shouldn't be possible, like it was warping space around itself to stay hidden from direct observation. Every simulation they ran came back with errors. The math just didn't work. And then there's the behavior. The object seemed to accelerate and decelerate at will, adjusting its speed in real time based on what Voyager was doing. NASA called this reactive behavior. It only moved when Voyager transmitted data, like it was listening, learning, or maybe trying to avoid being seen too clearly. Some scientists started asking a darker question. What if Voyager didn't just discover this object? What if sending Voyager out into interstellar space actually woke something up? What if we provoked it? While all this was happening, Voyager's magnetometer started picking up something else. Rapid changes in the magnetic field around the probe. These fluctuations were sharp, intense, suggesting active manipulation of electromagnetic forces. Not the kind of thing you'd see from natural phenomena. This looked engineered. A former JPL engineer, who wasn't supposed to talk about this publicly, leaked an internal report suggesting that these magnetic disruptions resembled something called toroidal energy distortions. That's the kind of signature you'd expect from a theoretical propulsion system, something like an Alcubierre drive, a warp field. If that's true, then we're not just talking about an advanced spacecraft. We're talking about something capable of bending space-time itself, manipulating the fabric of reality to move through space faster than should be physically possible. That's technology so far beyond what we have that it's almost incomprehensible, and the energy patterns were getting stronger. Every pulse, every wave, seemed to reinforce the same terrifying conclusion. We are not alone. And whoever or whatever is out there, they're not ignoring us anymore. Back on Earth, things got even stranger. Radio telescopes in Chile, Australia, and South Africa started picking up echoes of the same frequency that Voyager 2 had recorded. These weren't direct signals from the probe. They were reflections, or maybe copies, of the original transmission. Faint, buried under layers of cosmic background noise, but unmistakably there. And here's what made it terrifying. These echoes were synchronized with Voyager's transmission delays. Perfectly timed, as if something out there was receiving Voyager's signal and then broadcasting it back across multiple regions of space simultaneously. They called it the phantom pulse. Analysts tried to triangulate the source, to figure out where these echoes were coming from, but they couldn't pin it down. The signal seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once, projected across vast distances in a way that shouldn't be possible with any known physics. This wasn't just intelligent, it was strategic. Like the pattern was designed to be noticed, but only when humanity was ready to notice it. Only when we had the technology and the understanding to decode what we were seeing. And that brings up an uncomfortable truth about timing. Voyager 2 has been drifting through space for nearly 50 years. For most of that time, we barely had the computing power to analyze the data it was sending back. But now, just as artificial intelligence and quantum decoding have reached maturity here on Earth, the anomaly responds. Coincidence? Or has something been waiting for us to get smart enough to understand? Some theorists suggest that the object wasn't reacting to Voyager at all. It was reacting to Earth, to the fact that we've finally developed the tools to decipher what it's been trying to tell us for decades. That it's been watching our technological progress, waiting for the right moment to make itself known. And if that's true, then the implications are staggering. Because it means we're not just being observed, we're being evaluated, tested, maybe even judged. Behind closed doors, governments started imposing media blackouts. Private observatories were shut down. AI researchers working on signal analysis were reportedly pulled off their projects without explanation. Nobody wanted to cause a panic, but the message was clear. This was being taken seriously at the highest levels. The question inside classified scientific circles shifted from what is it to why now? Why reveal itself after all this time? Why wait until this exact moment in human history? And what happens next? Because if Voyager 2 triggered first contact, if it somehow activated or awakened something that's been dormant in interstellar space, then we might not be ready for what comes after. We might have opened a door that we can't close. So what do we actually know? We know that Voyager 2 detected an object moving with purpose. We know that object was tracking the probe, matching its velocity, staying just out of direct observation range. We know that something embedded a signal into Voyager's transmission, a pattern that looks intentional, structured, intelligent. We know that Voyager 1 experienced something similar decades earlier in roughly the same region of space. We know that the object's trajectory doesn't fit any natural model, and that it seems capable of manipulating electromagnetic fields in ways that resemble advanced propulsion technology. And we know that echoes of the signal are now appearing across multiple radio telescopes on Earth, synchronized in a way that suggests widespread, coordinated transmission. What we don't know is what it wants, or if it even wants anything. Maybe this is just how an advanced intelligence explores the universe, sending probes of its own, tracking anything that moves through its territory, broadcasting its presence as a warning or a greeting. Maybe it's peaceful, maybe it's indifferent, or maybe it's something else entirely. The object hasn't made any aggressive moves. It hasn't tried to interfere with Voyager's systems or damage the probe. It's just watching, observing, learning. But that doesn't make it any less unsettling, because the fact that it can track us, follow us, and manipulate our signals means it's far more advanced than we are. And in the cosmic hierarchy, being less advanced usually doesn't work out well for the weaker party. There's another possibility that nobody really wants to talk about. What if this isn't an alien spacecraft? What if it's something stranger? Some scientists have started floating the idea that the object might not be a physical vessel at all, but something else. A projection. A probe made of energy or information instead of metal and circuits. An intelligence that exists in the structure of space-time itself, capable of moving through the universe without needing a conventional ship. That sounds like science fiction. But then again, so did a lot of things before we discovered they were real. Black holes, quantum entanglement, the accelerating expansion of the universe. Reality is often stranger than anything we can imagine. Voyager 2 is still out there, still drifting deeper into the void. It's getting farther from Earth every second, and eventually its power will run out. The plutonium that keeps it running will decay. The instruments will go silent, and Voyager will become just another piece of space junk floating through the galaxy. But before that happens, it might send back more data, more clues, more pieces of the puzzle. And maybe, just maybe, we'll figure out what it encountered out there in the darkness. Whether it's a visitor from another world, a remnant of an ancient civilization, or something even stranger that we don't have the language to describe yet? The question isn't whether we're alone anymore. The data from Voyager has made that pretty clear. Something is out there. The real question is what we do with that knowledge. Do we keep sending probes into space, hoping to learn more? Do we try to send a deliberate message back to establish communication? Or do we go quiet, hoping that whatever noticed us will eventually lose interest and move on? Because once you've been seen, you can't unsee yourself. Once you've made contact, even accidentally, there's no going back to the way things were. Voyager 2 might have just changed everything, and we're only beginning to understand what that means. The next signal could come any second. The next discovery could rewrite everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. And whether that's exciting or terrifying probably depends on what comes next. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over.